Well, welcome to Fill in the Blanks. You're going to be glad you're here today because I'm talking to Elizabeth Pipko, one of the most interesting people you're going to add to your repertoire. She is a multifaceted force, and I don't use force casually in today's world. Born and raised in New York City, she is the daughter of Jewish immigrants from the former Soviet Union. Now, this is a background that has profoundly shaped her life's work, as well as her values. She made her first mark in the modeling world, gracing the pages of top magazines like Maxim and Vanity Fair Italia, but her achievements extend far beyond the runway. As a passionate pro-Israel advocate, she has spent years on the front lines in the fight against anti-Semitism, and I am so anxious to talk to her about all of that. At 21 years old, she joined Donald J. Trump's successful presidential campaign as a staffer, and she is currently serving as the national spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee. She was named to the Alminer Journal's 100 list of the most influential Jewish people worldwide in 2023, and you're going to understand why when we start talking here in just a minute. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You have had an interesting life, to say the least.
I think so.
I have a feeling it's just the interesting parts are just getting started. I have a sneaking suspicion.
I hope so.
How did you wind up as the national spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee? How did that get on your path?
Okay, so it's a very long story.
That's okay.
So we'll start from the very beginning. I was born and raised, I think you mentioned, in New York City. So I knew who Donald Trump was because I was just someone who grew up in New York. I lived a few blocks from Trump Tower. So Trump Tower was the place that my babysitter took me as a little girl when it was raining outside and we had nowhere else to go. I was also a competitive figure skater for a good chunk of my life and was supposed to go to the Olympics, but that's another story. But I started figure skating because Donald Trump operated Wallman Rink in Central Park, and that's where I began as a little girl. So that's what I knew of Donald Trump. So when he announced that he was running for president in 2016, it was actually right after I had injured my ankle pretty badly, lost my dream, and was just like a very depressed young adult, didn't know what my future held. My little brother, who was the smartest, greatest person on the planet, told me Donald Trump was going to be president. And if I wanted to get my life on track, I should start watching his videos and take some inspiration from him. So that's what I did. We volunteered together for his campaign, I think twice or three times. And the athlete in me came out and I said, I want more. I sent a letter to the director of the data department on the campaign. I begged an intern to bring that letter to him. He hired me 2 days later. I said I would not take the job without my little brother because he goes with me everywhere. He brought on my little brother. We won that election, obviously. On that campaign, I met my husband. After that, my husband and my brother stayed involved in politics. I actually went back to normal life. I wanted to graduate college. I wanted to get my master's. I wanted to go back to modeling and all these things. And then in the process, I ended up doing some media commentary, a little bit on anti-Semitism, issues related to Israel, and then a little bit to do with politics, just because that's become what all people want to talk about now that Donald Trump is the man that he is. So that's what happened. And then I ended up kind of in and out of politics over the course of 2016 through 2024. And then when the RNC changed leadership, when Laura Trump and Michael Whatley kind of took over the RNC, I spoke with the family, the Trump family, and they thought it might be a good idea. I will do anything for this country. And as a daughter of immigrants, when you're offered a platform like that, you don't say no.
Of course.
So I took the job, and now I'm the national spokeswoman for the Republican Party.
Are you a Republican?
I'd say I am right now. I'd say I have, a few days to save this country, and my choices are Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And I am more than in with Donald Trump, knowing he's the only chance that our country has, and that makes me a Republican.
And why do you say that? Why do you say he's the only choice this country has?
When it's a binary choice, you have to, look at the pros and cons of both sides. Kamala Harris has been in the White House in one way or another, obviously, for 4 years, and I think things have taken such a horrible turn. You can compare that to what we had under Donald Trump. Most people, before Kamala Harris became the nominee, most people agreed when you polled the average American that life was better under Donald Trump, right? I mean, the chaos around the world is atrocious. I still have nightmares about the footage I saw from October 7th. I always say if October 7th didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have taken this job because I think that day truly changed me as a person. But I don't believe a lot of the horrible things that have happened over the last 4 years would have happened if Donald Trump was president. And I believe based on the trajectory that we're on, if we don't make a change, we're in deep trouble.
How did October 7th affect you? I know that may seem like an obvious question with you being a Jewish American or an American Jew, however you want to state that. But I've talked to so many, some from Israel, some from here, and it affected everybody different, all of them painfully, but I'm curious how it affected you.
Yeah, no, it's a good question because as an American, I think a lot of people were surprised by how a lot of people were affected because obviously this happened overseas, right? I don't think enough people understand why a lot of Jewish people in America and around the world were affected the way that we have been. I would say October 7th negatively impacted me, but I think the response to it might have been even worse. On October 7th, I realized that as a Jew, I'm not invincible. I think I always thought that Jewish people were because we've overcome so much. And I thought that the worst was behind us, which was pretty naive of me. My grandfather used to warn me that the Holocaust was not the end and to keep my guard up and to know that the world is out to get us. And I thought he was a crazy person. And now I know that he was right. So that was a part of it. October 7th, I watched a lot of the footage and I realized what was happening to what could have been me, right? I could have been at that festival in Israel, tortured and, God forbid, raped, kidnapped, murdered, the way that others were who look like me and talk like me and share a Jewish background, which is the only reason, of course, that they were taken and killed. But I think the response to October 7th might have affected me even more because I expected to wake up and have the whole world on our side. And instead I saw the opposite, right? I looked out my window in New York City. I remember looking out a few months ago and there are people walking the streets with Hamas flags. There are people with signs that say burn the Jews, gas the Jews, put the Jews back in the oven, wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And they're marching with the flags of terrorist groups, one of which attacked New York City when I was a young child, obviously. And I just assumed that that would never happen. And I realized after October 7th, not only could October 7th happen again, not only am I in danger all the time because of how much hatred exists for Jewish people, but I'm not as safe in America as I thought that I was.
Is America going to be saved? Do you think this election's going to go the way you want it to?
I do think so. I like I said, I travel across the country all the time. You probably, the same. You meet people from everywhere. I do feel very similarly to how I felt in 2016. It's a nice feeling to, go around and meet people who are hopeful, right? People who are optimistic, people who believe in this country and love this country so much. I meet people who, served and gave everything for this country, risked it all for this country, parents who lost their kids fighting for this country. That's to meet those people and know what they've gone through and that they still believe and still have faith. Like that's who I work for every single day. But that's why I think America's going to be okay.
Well, as one of immigrant parents, Talk to me about immigration.
It's tough because people ask me, they assume that because my parents were immigrants, I'm going to have a very different response or viewpoint than I do. It's weird that people think that my parents came here legally. They risked everything. My dad lost nearly everything. He lost his father when he came here. He didn't know if he'd ever see him again. Basically said goodbye to his father because the people don't understand in America. But in the Soviet Union, you don't get to just leave, right? My grandmother and my dad escaped, but my grandfather was a very prominent lawyer, and they didn't let him out. And my dad said goodbye to him, not knowing if he'd ever see him again. He ended up dying from his third heart attack, I think a few years later, and only after the Soviet Union collapsed and my dad went back and found the KGB file on his family, did he learn how many times his dad desperately tried to get out to see his son, to meet anywhere in a neutral country so he could do that, and they didn't let him. And it's probably why he had his third heart attack at 57 and isn't here right now. Knowing what my parents went through to come here the right way, it's very difficult for me to not support everyone going through, hell and back to get here, because we have to be a nation of laws first, obviously. And if my parents had to do it, everyone should have to do it. At the same time, people around the world are suffering, right? People go through so much every single day that majority, I think, of people in America don't understand. And I fully admit to that. And I know how many people are out there that need our help. The problem for me is, driving to the airport this morning before I came here, there was a homeless veteran on the road who I give money to every single day when I see him. Until we have every veteran in a home, I don't know how much we can help other people that aren't Americans, right? That's the problem. I want to help everyone, and I get it. I get those who disagree with me politically, who just want to help everyone, who actually believe that for the right reasons. But until every child has a meal and a bed, and every veteran has a meal and a bed, it's hard to justify helping anyone else.
That's a very Democrat point of view, by the way.
Is it? I don't know.
I think it is.
Maybe. I don't like labels. It's just an American point of view. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be okay. I get why people want to come here, and I'm not going to deny that people go through hardships and that life is better in America. But I think until every American is okay, I don't know if we can help people. I think
What
that's
year did
fair.
your parents come here?
My mom came in 74. My dad came in 80.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If they hadn't come here, where would you be in your life right now, do you think?
Well, they came separately.
Right.
My mom was 10. My dad was 20 or 21. So they wouldn't have met and I wouldn't be here. But let's say they would have met somewhere. I mean, I can't imagine. My parents actually lived in England for a few years, and I always make jokes that I would have never forgiven them if they had me over there. I don't know. It's like weird. I feel being American like in my bones. Like I can't imagine being anything else. Like people make fun of my brother and I for how American we feel and how patriotic we are. But I don't know. I don't like leaving the country. I don't like anything that's not American. It's like who I am. I can just feel it. My grandmother talks to me about how back when she was in the Soviet Union, she felt American and like she had to escape because she felt it in her bones and her blood. And I don't know, that's all I know. I can't imagine anything else.
That's what I thought you would probably say, even though it's hard to say, well, if they hadn't come here, they wouldn't have met and they would have been there and they may have not met. But it's understandable why people want to get in this country,
100%.
Why the border is such a destination for people, why they want so badly to get into America by hook or crook any way they can. It kills me to hear people apologize for America, to apologize for us being successful, to apologize for policies. This isn't a perfect country. Absolutely not. I wrote a book entitled We've Got Issues. We do have it. We've got huge issues. We need to work on them. But I still think this is a great country, flaws, fallacies, and all. It's a great country. And if you got a hill to climb, I'd rather climb it here than somewhere else. I mean, whether you start out on third base, dugout, or dumpster, I'd rather start here than any other country. And there are some great countries in the world. I'm not saying this is the only place in the world.
I wouldn't even say that.
Well, there are. I mean, Sweden's got some great things going for them. And there are places that have, great healthcare systems. There are places that have, a lot of good things. But if I've got to dig myself out, I'd rather dig it out in America than somewhere else. There's no question about it. And I get why so many people around this world are trying to get to America. I'm a big proponent of immigration. I just think that it needs to be controlled. Yeah. And I think of America as my home the same way I think about the house I live in. That's my home. And I wouldn't let people in my front door if I didn't know who they were.
Right.
And I think of America as my home. I wouldn't let people in that door if I don't know who they are.
Or even if you do, but your son in the house needs you more right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think a big part of the problem with illegal immigration, I think we have to own some of that problem. We have a broken immigration system. When it takes 7 years to get a hearing, you got a broken immigration system. We need to make it faster for people to get an opportunity to get a hearing. And they're talking about 86,000 new IRS agents. How about let's not do that? How about let's have 86,000 new immigration agents that can process these cases and decide who should get in and who shouldn't get in. I teach negotiation sometimes. I do it with law enforcement and all kinds of groups. And I always say if we're going to negotiate something, the first thing I always like to do is say, let's start with making a list of everything we agree on. We can talk about all the things we disagree on in a minute, but before we do, let's talk about everything we agree on. I think if people would do that, if the two sides would sit down and say, let's talk about the things we want, that we can agree that we want in this country, I think the differences would be there, but I really believe they would be a lot less than people might think.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think even when you got down to the differences might be in methodology, how we go about getting them, even as much as wanting different things. Everybody wants a healthy country. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants affordability.
Yeah.
Everybody wants security. Everybody wants a good environment. Everybody wants clean water. Can you think of something that everybody doesn't want? Everybody wants the same things. It's just that now we're talking about how do we get them? There might be some differences there, but I think even there, it's just a matter of methodology, and then you get down to just what are the facts. Does this work or does that work? Let's do what works. Let's agree on what we want and take the best approach for now.
Right.
And I really think people have gotten to the point where, like you said, it's just, if there's a label, I have to hate you.
Right.
And that's just not true. I got grandkids. I want them to grow up with green grass and clean water and a healthy economy and feeling safe and secure. Doesn't everybody want that?
Right. And I assume that matters to you a lot more than how they vote.
I could care less. What I care about is that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when they have children, that they have a park to play in, they have money to buy food, they have food to buy, they have, an ocean to go sail in, whatever. Yeah. I want the same things I think everybody else wants.
Yeah, and I was young, so I don't totally remember it, but I think that's what life was before Donald Trump ran and the world turned upside down. I remember my parents, they had debates with their friends all the time, and it was like, we vote this way and they vote this way, but we both want the best for you. We just think that this path is better or that path. And I don't know why Donald Trump made people as angry as he did, but that's when the rhetoric went up. That's when the hate speech went up. That's when they went after not just the candidate, but his supporters, which I think is very dirty and un-American. And I don't know the way back. That's the problem.
I think one of the most significant days in this country's history was 9/12 of 2001.
Yeah.
Because on the morning after 9/11, we were all Americans.
Yeah.
There weren't any political parties. We were just all Americans. And I hate that it took something like that to remind us that we're all in this together.
Right.
And I hope it doesn't take something like that to remind us again that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I hope we can just decide.
I fear something like that will happen and we still won't realize we're together. I thought during COVID people would realize. I thought after Donald Trump nearly lost his life, people would think about it and realize. I thought October 7th, like we talked about. I don't know. It feels almost like it's just too far gone for people to realize everyone here is a human that wants the best for their family. Donald Trump is not Hitler. He's just a guy you disagree with politically. Kamala Harris might be a woman you disagree with politically, and her supporters are just people you disagree with. That's it. And I hope to God, no matter who wins, it goes back to normal. And I hope people give the president a chance, whoever it is. I do think it's going to be Donald Trump, and I'm scared of the response, but I hope they give him a chance and his supporters and his staff, and we close this chapter because it is unnecessary.
Whoever wins this election will be my president.
Right.
And I will support whoever wins this election. They will be my president, and I will give them my support, and I will be behind them 100%.
Yeah, as we should.
As we should. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. It was a great conversation, and I certainly think everybody will enjoy it and
I hope so.
Listen to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.